How's it going? My name's Sean. If you're new to the channel, I'm a full-time clothing eBay reseller, and I'm also a part-time YouTuber now. Today I want to talk to you about how I became full-time. I have a couple of my numbers jotted down. I just want to give you guys a brief overview of what it really took me to go from part-time to full-time. I hope you enjoy. So way back fall of 2019, it was September to be exact, a couple weeks after my birthday actually, I decided to list my very first item on eBay. It was the Oakley's hard shell, and it was a case, and I listed it for $9.99 free shipping, and a buyer sent an offer of $9 in 2 hours, and I accepted it, and I made $4.38. Those were the times when first class shipping was much cheaper. Since then, I decided, you know what? I think I can do this. I was working full time. I was making $13 all the way to $15 an hour within the 3 years that I worked that job, and I was getting 100% health insurance paid, and it was a brutal job. It was kind of technical, it was kind of mechanical. It was repairing commercial copiers. I did not like it one bit. I had to wear slacks, dress shoes, and tuck in my shirt, even though I would get covered in ink and toner, and it was miserable, but it was paying the bills, which was something that I needed at the time. So it took 7 months of part-time reselling, and this is selling everything, mind you: video games, bats, gloves, shoes, whatever I could get my hands on, electronics, hard goods, anything you could think of I was selling. I was following a couple of YouTubers, and I was just trying to be like everybody else and figure out how to get this done. 7 months until I profited $1,000 in a month. The very first month was only $250 something, and then it was about $300, and I had one spike of $500, but then it would go back down until finally I was able to crack the eBay code and make some actual money. Now, this involved me going to the thrift store. There's only 2 in my town. I would go there every single day after work. I worked 8 to 5, and right after I got off work, I'd speed over to the first thrift store. I'd shop there for 45 minutes, and then I would go to the next one, and I'd shop there for about 50 minutes. I did this every single day, and I still was not making much money. And then every Saturday I was hitting garage sales, and I was listing all the items I could. I had a couple iterations of storage systems and racks and bins, and you can see some of my older YouTube channels if you can bear watching them. They're pretty rough, I'll admit. And yeah, it was a huge learning curve. So after that 7-month mark, it still took another 16 months before I went full time. I went full time June of 2021. And by that time, I was making, $1,500, $2,000 a month profit pretty consistently. However, my plan was to go full time in January of 2022. It was January 1st, 2022 was the goal. I lined it out and I said, I can really start saving this money, stacking up the cash, and then have a nice little nest egg. And then in June of 2021, my grandmother passed away. She had a heart attack while she was running errands. And it really hit my whole family out of nowhere. We totally didn't expect something like this to happen. And I took a week from my job. I helped my grandfather. He wanted to really clean his house out to kind of get over the loss of her. And it was a very tough time. And I kind of realized and told myself, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid of not having enough money? Am I afraid of losing the house or the vehicles? And in reality, I'm too hard of a worker to allow any of that to really happen. I would go back to waiting tables, which I had done for 6 months, and that's a whole different type of hustle. Waiting tables is not, I wouldn't even consider it really a job. It's just a straight up hustle because you're relying on the kindness of others to pay your way. Going full time June 2021, I was very nervous. I took 2 days after, I went back to work to try to do my 2 weeks notice. I quit 2 days in because I just knew I was completely checked out and couldn't do it. I took another 2 days to really just sit and think and decide what am I going to do. And then from that point on, I just said I need to list 25 items a day at minimum, whether that's clothing, shoes, hard goods, anything. So I was still looking for anything in my town. I was sourcing a lot more. The stores didn't have the items that I needed because I was just there too often, and I started seeing how tough it was in my town with a small pool of items and not having the knowledge to know what to pick up all the time. Then I said, okay, I need to really start shifting away from these hard goods. I remember the point that I knew I was done with hard goods was a laptop. I sold this old laptop for $230, and the buyer kept on trying to get partial refunds and returns, and I actually gave him some of the refund money because I trusted him that he was doing the right thing, but he was just kind of tethering me along and trying to get all the money and keep the item. And eventually I said, you know what, I'm done with hard goods. So I still was doing shoes. I was doing a lot of jeans at this time. A lot of people at the thrift stores knew I was the guy to go buy the jeans. Somewhere in that time frame, a friend of mine, Brian Roney, was talking about selling button ups, and he said, yeah, you can store much more. He didn't have as big a warehouse or space that he could store his items. So I said, button ups are very terrible. I don't like buttoning shirts. I don't like listing shirts. And I kind of fell into the daily refinement model of how he was listing clothes, and I had been watching him kind of on and off. I felt like he was kind of all over the place. When he really narrowed in on what he was doing, it gave me the confidence that I could replicate that as well. And during this whole part-time phase that I forgot to mention, I started the YouTube channel. It was 2020, and I think it was June of 2020 is when I started the channel, and I had fun with it. I was having a lot of fun, but I noticed it was keeping me from being a better reseller, so I had to put it on the back burners until most recently, February of this year is when I kicked it back up on YouTube. Right now, it is early part of 2023. I've been full-time reselling for 22 months. I do a weekly trip to the bigger cities in Dallas, and I'm able to source all the items that I need, but I'm quickly realizing that is going to it's going to get much more difficult because there's just better resellers out there. I run into them all the time. Some of them watch the channel, and if they beat me to a store, there's a good chance they're going to get most of the items. So I am now starting to market in my local town because I want to become the men's buyout store, kind of like a Plato's Closet or an Uptown Cheapskate, places like that where you can drop off your clothes. And I don't think I'm going to have any physical clothes for sale, but I may have QR codes set up so people can shop my store, and I'm deciding on getting a location. So all these plans have been in place for a while, but it's a matter of the capital and having the inventory. I'm also able to hire a part-time employee. She's been working 4 days now, I believe, 3 or 4 days, and she's amazing. So having the ability to afford a part-time employee really accelerates the business because I'm able to buy back a lot of my time and I can spend more time on YouTube, which makes, a little bit of income, but I'm also developing a second business, kind of like when I had my full-time job and I was developing eBay. Now I have eBay as my full-time job and I'm trying to develop a second business. So I wanted to kind of tell you guys, I wanted to do it a little more in depth with my spreadsheets to show the amount of money, but essentially I used to itemize every item, how much I spent, how long it was listed. I would put a green, a yellow, and a red for if it made money, kind of made money and then just lost money, because it definitely lost some money in those early months. And eventually now I just kind of, I know what to buy, I know what to sell, I know how to list it. You guys have seen the videos and kind of hopefully followed some of the ways I've been doing it. But a lot of people ask, what does it take to become full-time? Yeah, you need money to cover your bills and all this stuff, but you can have all the money you want, and if you don't trust yourself or trust your abilities or are able to work the hours that you don't want to work, if you just want to sit back and do the bare minimum, you can absolutely do that, but the results will reflect it as well. If you want to kind of build it and not just coast, you have to be creative. You have to understand that you may have to work long hours and you may have to do things you don't want to do, and kind of just understanding that you are the boss, you are the person that makes it happen. Without you, it all fails. So those are just some of the things I kind of remind myself, and I always think back to some of the worst jobs that I had and that I never want to go to a place like that again. So I hope this video is insightful for some of you guys if you're just wondering what it really takes. If you have questions, go ahead and comment them down below. You can also reach me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video.